Yeah.
Hope everybody's paying attention today because we have Christelle Pillot calling in from Germany, and she is a self-help guru who empowers women all over the world. And I want to welcome Christelle to the show. How you doing today, Christelle?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me with you today.
Is there a different, even though you may have the same title, do you feel like there's a different narrative? You know, the empowering space is different than the empowering space in the U.S.?
It's a good question. I don't think there is so much difference. I think we speak the same languages. We have kind of the same problems and we understand each other. I have been for 6 months, I think it was in Spain. We have been in Spain and I have been with half of the women from Europe and half of the women from US. And we have the same problem. We can understand each other. And to be honest, like in Europe, between France and between Germany, because I'm French, but I live in Germany, and we don't have the same culture, and we don't really see the place of a woman in the society the same way. So that means that sometimes the difference between France and Germany can be sometimes bigger than the difference between France and US. So at the end, we understand each other very well, and that's why we can speak the same languages. And I have in my webinar, I do have women coming from US.
Well, in a way, it's kind of like listen to ourselves, right? Because I really believe that tone attracts tone. But I think sometimes even though we're attracted to the same tone, I think that sometimes that narrative is misconveyed, right? So you're attracted if you have a culture from one area of the world and a culture from the other area of the world, and they're attracted by a certain thing. But sometimes that communication doesn't translate the same way. How do we get past that translation sometimes?
Yeah, in my case, because my clients are very international, so we are beyond the nationality and beyond the languages. I have German clients or French client in US. I have American clients here in Europe. So we are a lot really mixed, and we eventually are used not to speak the language, our native speaking language. So we really take care about, and I am very empath. So really always look at the emotions. Don't believe that emotions have a language. So therefore it's more really I do group coaching, but I do a lot of one-on-ones because I want to understand the emotion of a person. And for that, you don't necessarily need the words. You need the feeling. And I think it's the best way, and maybe take a little bit more of time. And maybe because we don't speak our native language, so we know that we have to be very careful about how we take things. So we ask twice eventually before being sure that we understand the right thing.
Well, it's funny you say that. I always say that sensibilities is life. And we don't talk about sensibilities, because I'm a clairsentient as well. So I feel things and so forth. So I know if that's where it's coming from, I know that's foundational. From your perspective, I know what you do is foundational because you feel it, right?
Yes, yeah. Words are not enough. So I need the feeling, and I always. So that's why it's good to have the videos, and that's why it's good to have the time as well. That's why I don't do big groups, because I want to feel people. And yesterday I had a small group session, and then we look at in my case, I look at the strength of my client, and I use the Clifton Strength test for that, or assessment for that. And one of the person was a relator, which I am as well. So it's like really having deep connection with someone, working deep and working hard. So that's why I prefer to have this very, very small group or one-on-ones. This person was the same. However, so we don't have the same way of connecting with another person. And that is something that I can take care of as well, because it's really, it's not jumping in one conclusion too quickly. It's not because one person has like a burnout or has a self-confidence problem that it's exactly the same way to solve the problem. We always have to go one or two layer deeper in order to understand and then to treat the problem or to find solutions. So I'm not really like a fan of problems, but really more finding solutions. And for that, we need time and go deeper, not just staying on the Oberfläche, also superficie, but really going deeper.
When you say, I have a couple of different rationales about that, because I believe that we need to live more in the quantum field, right? And that's, if you understand creation more, you can get to an answer faster. So when you think about going deeper and you think about trauma, so if low level energy can attach to you when you go through a trauma, do you think that you need to re-experience that trauma to help that level energy attach to you? Because I have a different idea about that.
That's a complicated question.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think there is two ways. So I don't know if you can see that. So it's written in French. However, it's one of my workshops that I have done this year. And the first part is, in order to recapture freedom, is to understand our stories. So somehow to go back into what happened in our past and then to understand it. But my point of view there is to understand it, to understand our values, to understand our lessons, to understand why we act this way, and then to take as well how much we want to ponder this experience. Like I had a trauma with 6, but during this time I had positive things and negative things, and then I can decide to take the positive things, and therefore the energy can shift within this trauma. My point of view there is that when we understand better our experiences, then we can let go of it. We can let go of our energy of it. And then we can, it says that we have different kind of future, and that we can, because of our thought, we can change our future, or we can create different kind of future. And it's kind of the same for our past. We can change our past. And doing that is one way for maybe more rational people to understand it and to think, okay, now that I understand my story, I can let go of it, and I can let go of this energy, and I can maybe even decide to recreate my past differently. My memories are anyway not the truth. It's just one way of seeing the past, and I can recreate another kind of past. And therefore we can shift the energy this way. So that would be like one very rational way of dealing with it. For sure. So I do a lot of meditation. So for sure there is other way to release energy with meditation, without thinking too much and without going through the mental, but just through the emotional part.
So you think you're a shaman?
I don't like words, so I don't like to put like a label or something like that. What I know, I was engineer before, so I have like this kind of structured mind. And what I like to do, depending on the client that I have in front of me, it's to adapt myself. If it's someone who have read books already about energy, quantum physics, I just read a book about that. And because I was as a chemical engineer, I can understand a lot of this kind of stuff. But for some of my clients, it's just too abstract. So when I have this kind of client, I stay very logical, and then I can explain them how eventually they can release this kind of energy if they want to work with me on that, because I am a coach. Therefore, sometimes they just don't want to go so deep with me. And some of them want to. It's really depending of the trust that they develop with me. And yes, for some of the ones that are used to meditate and are used to speak about that, okay, so let's go in this direction. That's possible too.
I talked to Tom Palladino. He was on here, and see, I have Native American on both sides of my family, and I have energy coming out my right hand. But the energy that comes out of my right hand is called scalar energy.
Okay.
scalar light, scalar energy.
Mm-hmm.
What is ironic about that is that the energy that human beings can project is the same energy that Tesla discovered, scalar energy.
Okay.
Obviously, there's something to that.
The thing is that, so I have done Reiki, I have done a lot of different kind of things, and I have read a lot of books. And sometimes our mental want to put some, it's like meditation. When you do meditation, you feel a lot of things, and when you go out of your meditation, at the beginning at least, you go and see your teacher and you say, oh, I had this kind of sensation. Is that good or is that bad? What is the meaning of that? And asking this kind of question is the mental taking over again, and the ego, and wanted to have solution and definition and understand if we are right or not. And that's why sometimes I say that I don't like words, because the words are the definition that what our egos want to put on what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you feel energy, so some of people say, okay, I feel the energy of the universe, or I feel the energy of the earth, or whatever kind of energy. I believe at the end we don't care. I believe that the results is the most important, but the definition of what's happening is not so important. It's just our mind need that.
I've spoken to some other shamans and other people in this space, in this part of the world where you're at. That narrative speaks to finding thyself, being in the moment. In other countries, if they're not, if they're not about finding thyself, they're probably not going to be thinking about living in the moment.
Yeah, I believe that living in the moment is, as of for me, it's really important. It helps me to calm down, to come back, and to not being completely overwhelmed with all the things that I have to do. So every time I seek solutions, or I seek calmness, I go back in the moment, but in the here and now. Here is important as well, not only now. And yeah, I think when we are in the here and now, so we don't think that much anymore. And that's why all these concepts are not so important anymore. It's just what we feel, or the energy that we feel. Yeah, and that's it. So, and it's where we don't need words anymore, because we just need to feel things. However, it's not easy to do, right? So to live in the here and now.
So are you an emotional basket case?
What do you mean with that?
People who are, most people in the, there's people who are authentic, have some, I say connected to source, whatever that is, however you're connected to source, or authenticity. People who have this authenticity, they do very well. They're very, can run a business, have a fine line, but then there's always a time of unrest with a sensibility, because you do feel, and that's how you understand things. Interpreting that, because you're taking on so many, when you are trying to answer questions, you're taking on so many different energies, it kind of depletes you, kind of sends you down a rabbit hole. A lot of people don't realize that, right?
It's not easy. So I know that for me, I need my me time. I need to be alone. I'm really very careful about how much I spend time with the people around, and with which kind of people. And I understand that depending of the energy of the people, it's really that kind of energy. Depending of the energy of the people, I feel good or I feel bad, and I really try to deal with that. So I have one person in mind right now. She's a great person. However, every time I am with her, I feel my energy drained away from me, and I try change that, because I do believe that she's okay the way she is. I just try to find my way to stop that. I don't. Yeah. It's not it's not really successful right now. But I do take care of whom I meet and how long, and I really need my me time. I need to be alone as much as possible at the end, which is a pity.
Well, do you think she needs that energy? I think there's something that's open between bloodlines or something, because like if someone within that circle, that connection is usually over the top, and they may need that energy really from you.
I think so. Yeah, I think if I have this person in mind, I do believe that she needs this energy. She's craving. So and somehow I provide energy,
Yeah.
and I cannot stop it. I don't know. But indeed, every time she says, "Oh, it was so nice to be with you today," like every time, so she feels re-energized every time, and I
Yeah.
feel depleted anytime, every time. It's good for her.
How long does it take you to get back together, or before you'll see another client?
Well, this person is not a client. That is interesting because my clients, they don't really take my energy away. My clients, when they come to me, they do have problems. They want to change career. They are burned. They have no balance. So there is a lot of things that are not working. However, when they come to me, they are in this spirit that they want to change things. They don't take my energy. We work together on finding solution on their problem, and usually I feel energized with my client. It's
Gotcha.
more when I meet people outside of my coaching business where I cannot really help them because they are not there yet. They don't really want to have any kind of help, but they
That's
just
that's
want
all the
to.
broken toys.
Yes.
I have the same problem. Yeah.
So how do you do that?
I don't know. There's always people that gravitate towards me that need help or
Yeah.
need something,
Yeah.
and it just happens. I mean, it's like you don't want, I mean, you hate to say it, you don't want it to happen, but then you wake up and it'll be the exact same person looking at you, when you say, I got to stop doing that. I got to stop doing that. But I've been doing that my whole life, I think. My wife's like, you let people move in and all kinds of shit.
So I have a meditation, and that helps me when the environment really heavy is with the emotions, like someone is dead, and you go to the church, and you know that this heavy emotional state is there. So there I have my meditation and I have my mantras, and I'm so okay. I am fine. Am I fine? The emotion around is not my emotions. I am fine. I'm fine. And so I try to stay with my own emotion. And that is kind of okay, but I can feel the battle inside of me, like feeling the emotion from like pushing into me, inside of me, and fighting inside and thinking, no, that's not my emotion. That's not my emotion. That is when it's really heavy, I can kind of feel it. But when it's a little bit more subtle, a little bit more daily life, sometimes I cannot see it, and it's difficult for me to protect myself.
Well, this is a rationale that I've tried to do, say, but not try. But if you think about it, fear is weak. Fear is weak energy, and anything that was created by source is a fraction of source. So if people just took that mental thought process, everything that was created by source is a fraction of source. So anything that is not source is not as powerful as source.
It's what I say. So in this process that I show there, it's like the first step is know yourself. Really try to understand who you are, why you think this way, why you feel this way. So just trying to understand the person that we are. And the second step is more trust. And there is trust yourself and trust the universe or life or whatever you call it. Trust yourself is because when you trust yourself and when you trust the universe, you have less fear. And when you have less fear, your level of energy goes higher because fear has a low level of energy indeed. So when you have this trust that I'm going to be able to make it, or anyway, the universe is there to help me, to guide me in the right direction, it's going to be fine. So then you have less of this fear, and you can manage your thoughts in order to have less of this kind of fears, and then your energy goes higher. And then that helps you to go in a higher energy, and then to have more all what we call the law of attraction and this kind of stuff.
This is the part that I jump in. I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole on your show, but when you understand that if we were taught more about the non-conscious, right, the non-conscious in your environment, because first of all, your birth date gives you a direction. So we already know what direction this person needs to deal with things in a certain direction. All right. So what is that? What lineage and whatever is he carrying? How big is that? How big is that hole, potential hole? Because if you carry that lineage into your non-conscious, and you're just sitting there and you don't know you have that big pocket, and then you go out in the world, and then that's when the third part of your sensibilities kick in, right? You have that trauma. It's perpetuated because you didn't realize what was in you. Is there something to that? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there a way, like, I say that's preventative. Can we not tell people that information in a way?
That would be nice, right?
Right? Does that not make sense?
I agree. So I wrote this book 6 months ago, and it's like we are 8 women we have done together, and it's for each chapter is one story of our life. In my story, but in the other stories of all these ladies, is that we have to understand our stories, and sometimes the stories of our family as well. It's beyond our own life. It goes like in our mother and grandmother and further. And when we go back to all this lineage, then we better understand ourselves. So when I say try to understand who you are, your stories, so sure, it can start with your stories. But when you start with your stories, so you at some point you see that this program is not necessarily my program, or is not necessarily my story, but it comes from what happened before me with my mom and my grandmother and whoever. Yeah, but nobody tell us to do that, or nobody show us the way. But it's like communication as well. I do a lot of non-violent communication, and I have 3 children, and my biggest one is 14. And then told me last time, you know what, Mom, if I want to share something with my children when I'm going to be a father, it's going to be communication, because we are not good at communicating. We don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to communicate with others, but with ourselves, not better. We stay, it's the same what I said before, we stay on the surface, but we don't go deeper. But we never learn to do that. So I never learned that at school. I don't know you, but I think it's the same in the US or in Europe.
Well, I think it's sensibilities. You know, if you don't utilize your senses, you know, if your senses are non-emotional for most of your life, hence technology.
Yeah.
So if you know, it's very non-emotional, and then you get out into the real world, and then you show up, and something emotionally finally happens, and you haven't used those senses before. How much of an overreaction are they going to overreact because they've never felt it?
Yes, exactly.
I think that's where the apprehension comes in.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's why people need to punch kids in the face more. You know what I mean? So I say that jokingly, but that's like, you know, they need to feel something because they're not feeling anything right now.
Yeah, I do some coaching with kids and teenager, and what I like right now is that we do that with kids doing dancing. So they dance a lot in competition and so on, but they are in this creative mode, in this expressional mode. There is a lot of emotions, and that's why I come, because I do like mental emotional coaching with them in order to better understand the emotion, better feel them and let them go and communicate them and so on. And I found, and I think it's something that I really understood with the last 4 years, is like creativity, art is so important, because that's one way to help us to be in contact with our humanity, our emotions, and to be more creative, and therefore, closer to our souls. And that's something that I, as an engineer, that's something that I really didn't have in my mind before all this COVID and lockdown.
Science, because that speaks to the fact that science only uses 2 parts of law of attraction to determine a mathematical answer. So you're saying this third part is what we really need, the creativity part. If you put that in a pie chart of sensibilities, I think you could add that third piece to humanity, could you not?
Yeah, I like that.
If you used if science used all three parts of law of attraction to determine answers for humanity, don't you think we would have better answers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the problem as well right now between quantum physics and philosophy and religion. It's that they are still like not willing to come together. The quantum leap and the physics and the standard physics and the religion and the philosophy, they just want to stay separated. But at some point, if they look a little bit ahead and they open a little bit and they let the ego on the side and they accept to be a little bit more creative, they might find ways to go together and to better try to find the answer, the big answer. Because I think they all have like one part of that, but they don't want to come together.
Well, I mean, I think we got to understand. Somebody said this. I think it was Tom Palladino. He said, we got to understand that something created the uncreated."
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I think we got to start realizing that, and then get away from the Newtonian model of reality, because unfortunately that's put us behind the curve.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was the name of that book again? The book.
The book is called Women Thrive, Volume 2. And it's inspiring true stories of women overcoming adversity. So there is already a volume 1, and we are going to do a volume 3, but I am in the volume 2. And half of that have been written in Europe and half of that in the US. So it's
Gotcha. And how did you get into this? Like, where do you live, and how did you get into this? How did this develop?
Well, I am French, but I have been living in Germany for 20 years now, or 21 years. And I was engineer. During 15 years, I have been doing this kind of job, traveling around the globe. But before that, I wanted to study psychology. However, like 25 years ago, so in my city, so they told me that it was not a good idea. It was not a good job. And engineering was better. So I kind of believed that and went to this path. But psychology always was with me. With my parents started to do personal development very early. So I was maybe 6 or something like that, as they started to go to seminar and to develop their own business. And as a 6-year-old, I can remember the energy that created at home. I can remember, so my dad was working during the day to his engineer job, very standard job. And during the evening, they were trying to do their own business and to learn from this personal development, the law of attraction, and that everything is possible and so on. And we had always people at home and trying to live this dream or to create this dream. And as a child, 6 years old, all what I can tell is this energy, this positive energy. And I felt so stimulated with this energy that always stuck with me. And that's why I continue to learn meditation and communication and so on. And with 35, I decided, and it's something that I explain in the book, why I decided to switch my career and to say, okay, I don't want this engineer part anymore, because I don't understand the purpose of that. My job is not purposeful. Okay, I go in pharmaceutical company and I sell machine there, but if I don't do that, nothing is going to happen, and I don't really see the meaning of it. It's very, very important to have a meaning in our life, and if we don't have that, we cannot live properly. And in my case, I really felt the energy going down and down and down every year. And I decided to shift my career. And the interesting part that before that, I was always more or less depressive. So having this depressive moment every year. But at the moment I decided to quit my job as an engineer and to follow my dreams and to follow what I believe makes sense in my life, I never had any kind of depression since. So it's like 10, 12 years now, and no depression. My life has been eventually more complicated, but because I could understand why, it was okay. I could find the energy again, but without any why, without any meaning. It was like, okay, they asked me to put more energy, but I don't understand why, and I couldn't find the energy anymore. So that's why I do what I do.
So when you talk about feeling, you feel energy. How do you perceive the energy? You feel it? Do you have energy coming out of your body at all? Do you?
So when I say I feel energy, so when I say that before doing my career shift, I couldn't feel energy, and now I feel the energy back. It's really like here, so in the center of my body. I can feel. Before that, it was like all without. Yeah, it's like it was black, like nothing. And now I can feel that if I need energy, it comes from here, like the heart center or the heart chakra or whatever. It's really how I feel it. It's from here.
So it comes out of your hands as well?
Yeah.
Well, your palms?
Yeah.
That's where it comes out for me too, especially this right hand.
Yeah, definitely.
But very heavily.
Yeah.
Do you have to replenish? Do you replenish yourself?
I don't really do that.
You don't meditate to replenish yourself?
Yeah, I meditate a lot. I meditate
But
a lot.
bringing light energy into your crown chakra?
Yeah, yes, or just feeling like the typical body scan, which I didn't really like at all at the beginning, but now I really love to do that and to feel the energy and the vibration in my feet and going up and up and up. I do that like kind of every time when I'm in bed. It's like the moment where I do it. And when I need really energy, it's like from the crown chakra.
Do you work with people, when you work with people one-on-one, do you work with the hands and things like that?
It's not that much. I do have some clients when sometimes we do it. So when sometimes I do a little bit of Reiki or sometimes, but it's usually I do more the typical coaching job where I listen and I try to feel the vibes, and I try to feel my intuitions as well, because I have seen that when I listen to it. So sometimes my client says something and I have an intuition, and every time I say, okay, I have to catch the idea and to tell them, they find that really inspiring or really insightful. And sometimes, and it really took me a long period of time before understanding that, because before it was like, okay, I have this idea, but I just dismiss it because I have no proof from the process.
Or you piss them off and they get defended because it's diarrhea of the mouth, right? And you're like, whoops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, where did that come from? Right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. So usually they are not really pissed off.
Probably it's so truthful.
Yes.
It hits them in the mouth. Somehow those comments are always very truthful and very to the core.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I use more like the empathy and so on. I don't really use like my hands and the energy. However, I do that time to time with some very specific clients where I know that they understand that and they eventually ask for that. Then it can happen.
Well, and I went back, when I went back to before about people going back and feeling their past trauma. But if you understand the non-conscious, and the non-conscious is just a thing. So if you have a non-conscious and it's got this trauma, packed in trauma from lineage, and you just on that alone, if you take that and you recreate that trauma and you unpack that again, is that not more detrimental? Those types of practices. I guess that's where I'm going with it. You know what I mean?
I understand. So that's why I'm very cautious. However, what I have seen because I have been so many people meditated with me, and what I have seen with some of them is that, like, I have one client in mind, and she had a heavy problem with her mom, and then we were at the end of the session, and I told her, if you want, we can meditate a bit, and she said, yeah, but I don't want to address the problem with my mom. She said, no problem. We are going to stay like just very soft, like more a relaxation, not really a heavy meditation. So I start the meditation, and then maybe 10 seconds before the end of the meditation, a telephone ring very loudly. And so I thought, okay, she's going to open the eyes and that's it. And she didn't move at all. And I was like, okay, that's spooky because it was so loud. And 10 seconds later, I said, okay, I'm going to just finish the meditation. And then if she doesn't open the eyes, so I'm going to wake up to help her to wake up. And I count down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then she opened the eyes. And I told her 10 seconds ago, your telephone rang really so loudly. It's not possible that you didn't hear it. And she told me I didn't hear it at all. And I believe that she was, subconscious was protecting her. She was somewhere else. She told me, so I didn't hear nothing from the meditation. And I have had so many clients. So every time we go in meditation, they tell me, I kind of hear you, but I am not with you. It's blurry. I am not really there. And what I have seen from my experience and as well for my mentor in meditation is usually it's our subconscious protect us if we are not ready to see some kind of truth or to discover some kind of things. So the subconscious is not going to open it. And maybe it's good not to push it too much. So really to be again in connection with the client and to look at if everything is fine. And but if you do that and if you don't push too much, however, I believe that our brain is so strong that it can kind of gauge if it's the right moment to open up or not.
I just had to start having these different rationales because I tapped into the other side and I didn't know I could do that. All right. I didn't know I could do that. I tapped into the other side and had a conversation. But with doing that, and you understand that carry and you understand non-conscious, it makes sense because when that non-conscious enters the world, right, you're still going to carry that, those elements of that. You have this trauma, you have some type of trauma again. It just gives whatever entity that's here, that energy that's here, a bigger home. It gives them a bigger home to live in because it's a bigger attraction of energy that's being carried through the process.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, those are just things I rationalize. Like, if you look at everything from a percentage, and if you understood that life is percentages, and you looked at everything mathematically, you could base pretty much everything on a percent and how that affects whatever it does.
But it's interesting. I think that our brain, it's completely different, and depending of the method we use as well, depending of, I read some interview last time about people like shaman seeing then the energy of the plant, of the flowers, and how they do that. Yeah, I think we have our own stories. We have our own purpose. We have our own lesson to learn here. And at the end, whatever happens, it's part of the process. So it's like trust the universe, right? And and if at some point we are in front of something and that open our brain and we think that we are not ready for that, well, it seems that somehow we were ready and somehow we wanted to have this kind of experience.
It's very, very interesting to me because, I mean, your rationales are very similar to my thought process, but that tells me that it's very authentic because there's one thing I talk about with people that are in this space. There's a lot of unauthentic people in this space, so I think that's very, very important. If you're authentic to what you're doing, which I really 110% believe you are. Do you not think that makes a bigger difference?
I think that makes a big difference, and I think that makes the biggest difference. I put a video on my Instagram a few days ago. I went back from a run, and I had this like people say all the time, everything is possible, or we can read that everything is possible. And sometimes I was like, oh, I can't read that anymore, or I can hear that anymore. However, I believe that as well. So, but I think there is a difference between like people, sometimes they just say it without the awareness of the power of the words. They just say it from the mental perspective. And there is some other people, and I had one person in mind. And we discussed about, she just had like 2 weeks of sport challenge, 12 weeks of sport challenge, and she have done this 12 weeks of sport challenge during the last 3 years. And then she explained me that the person that she is today is a completely different person than 3 years ago, just because of these sport challenges that she has done during the last 3 years. And then I told her, oh, that's interesting, because now she wake up at 7 and then she goes for a sport, and it's something that she would never have believed that she would be able to do that 3 years ago. And then I told her, okay, then what is your lesson? What do you take from that, from this process, the last 3 years process? And then she really, I could feel that. So that's why I was so impressed. She really took a pause. She thought, and then she came back and I believe that everything is possible. But the way she said that, because it was linked to a process of the last 3 years, she believed it. It's just not a thought, it's the belief that she could integrate in herself. And it makes the difference. And as she said that, I could follow her, I could believe her. And I was, okay, I believe that in 3 years, she's going to tell me something completely different. She's going to tell me that she has achieved so many different things because she believes it now. It's just not a thought, it's a belief. And I think that's the difference. There is so many people, they have read so many books, but it's still very mental. And it's not in their DNA. It's not in their belief system. It's just, oh, I could tell you. There is so many people that are so good with names and with quotes and with concepts. They can explain you all the concepts and the names and the quotes. But it's just here in the mind, it's not in the soul, it's not in the heart, it's not in the cells, it's not in the same energy.
Yeah, it's not foundational.
Not really. And they are great to share, but they are not really great to do eventually.
Well, I mean, it goes back again to that finding thyself. And look how our governments operate. You know, we give everything away internally. We worry about everybody else. Right. So how much value is that just doing for each country that does that? Put that on that level, and now they'll put it on a personal level. Yeah, it's really the same thing. What's weird is patterns will replicate themselves.
And it's exactly what I say to my clients. So usually my clients, they are women and they have children. And sometimes they come to me and say, oh, my child, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but you live by example. So do it. And then your child can do it as well. If you don't do, some of my clients say, okay, just I give you my child and you should give him more self-confidence and you should give him more whatever. So yeah, but you are the center of his life, so you can give that. However, if you are insecure, you cannot ask your kid to be secure. So you have to give it that to yourself first, and then you can leave it. And then you can have it's again an energy thing. Then you can give that back to your child, but without even thinking about it. It's just normal because you are that.
Yeah.
So It's exactly the same for families. It's the same for us. It's the same for a family. It's the same for a country.
We're empowering, you know what I'm saying? You're empowering women, you know, we're empowering. We don't want to outpower.
Yeah. Exactly. It's really empower yourself, nourish yourself, and then you can give back.
Yeah. A lot of people don't get that. Like if they just dove into themselves just a little bit, right? Everything else will work out.
Yeah, but it's difficult to give from an empty place, right? So.
Well, if we want to find the book and find your information, Christelle, where do we find that?
So the book, you can find it on Amazon. Everywhere on Amazon. So really Women Thrive Volume 2, and then you find it. And if you want to find me, so you can really Google Christelle Pillot and you find my website, you find my LinkedIn profile, you can find me on Instagram under Freedom Catcher Academy, because that's the name of my academy, and I help people and organizations to feel free, to feel more successful, empowered, and to live more in balance and with ease and fun. That's really important, I believe. Yeah, so you can LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can find me everywhere. YouTube even.
Cool. Cool. Well, Christelle Pillot, I think she's the real deal, very authentic, and always goes on what I say is what I talk about, I feel. And I think she does the same thing, which I think if you're looking to be empowered, I think you want that in somebody. So appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
My name is John Edmonds Kozma, the CEO of Bang Productions. Thank you.